A little background: I, 26F, come from a relatively traditional Asian family. My father owns a rice wine brewery and my mother helped him with it. Even though I said my family is pretty much conservative, from what I've seen growing up, my father never told my mother to do all the chores and he helps her with it. My father always say that he couldn't provide for the family alone and she has to work, that's why he never expect her to do everything in the house. Just like how they share the responsibilities to earn for our family, they also share responsibilities taking care of the household. Now, come my fiancé, 29M. We met on social media. He's an American who's currently working in my country. We've been dating for 3 years and been engaged for 5 months. He always tell me he's looking for a traditional woman and want a date with marriage in mind. He said that women who are able taking care of household and child rearing admirable, and I always agree to him without much thought because that's indeed incredible feat. Right? He's working in a small university and I'm currently working in hospital. We saved enough to buy a house with a little bit of the help of my parents, but we haven't moved in together though because you know Asian parents. But anyway, on my father's birthday last week, we talked about marriage once again. He doesn't think his income alone would be enough after our marriage and it's giving him insecurity, so I suggested that I keep working after marriage and that's not a problem because we'd be partner. My father also offered that we take over his brewery, and while I found the idea lovely, my fiancé on the other hand seemed hesitant about it, but he agreed that I should keep my job. That was where the first problem started. I told him that since I have to work then I expect he'll help with the household chores later. After I said that, he suddenly got irritated. He said that he had been telling me he's looking for a traditional woman and that now he had been catfished since I don't want to take care of every house chores because I'd still work anyway. Whenever he said he's looking for traditional spouse, I always thought that he'd also be a traditional spouse, aka being sole provider, so I can focus on taking care of the house and child if we ever have any. But when I told him that, he said I'm a gold digger and materialistic like any other woman, even when I never once asked him to be sole provider. He brought that up first. Mind you, I didn't even let him spend alone whenever we go out on a date. For example, he paid dinner, I paid for coffee and movie. Even my father willingly offered his brewery if we want to take care of it as a mean to provide ourselves. So where's the gold I should have been digging here? That was when I actually put the ring down and tell him that I want to break up. I told him he's not traditional enough if he wants fully traditional wife. I didn't want to deal with someone who could easily call me a gold digger because I want to share the chores. That hasn't even happened yet, in front of my parents. I can't help but think if he could easily said what he said in front of my parents when we haven't married yet, then he could be saying something worse if we're married and alone. I went home alone and he texted me saying he was sorry and he didn't mean what he said. He asked to meet, but I don't feel like it. However, when I told my friends, most of them told me I was a bit too emotional, hasty and impulsive. That I might look like an asshole because I don't even want to meet him. His mother now trying to talk me out of it, and that I'm too old to act like this, and it's the culture barrier that lead us to this point. So, here I am, trying to look for a new perspective. Ada? Comments where Op has replied, pristine payment, you are 100% correct. If he doesn't provide 100%, then he should help around the house. But I'm curious, what do your parents think of what he said? Whatever Op, my parents don't really speak English. So they only could understand it a bit and piece of what we said. My father initially felt bad. He thought we fought because he brought up the business, but after I told them the reason, excluding the gold digger and materialistic remarks, they are fully on my side, and if I want to end it then I should, but they think I should meet him at least once to end our relationship properly. Fleet dancer, be careful when you break up with him. Bring friends or relatives, preferably male ones, and meet him in a public place. Men like him can be dangerous when their woman stands up to them. Whatever Op, alright, thanks for your advice. My parents are coming and my father said he's not going to let me meet him alone. Thank you once again. Larsamosa, I just want to say, I really admire your parents and you too, of course. Mad respect for leaving his sorry Rs. Hungry_composer 644, he called you a materialistic gold digger who catfished him, in front of your parents? You are definitely NTA. And I think you're right to worry that much worse would be coming your way behind closed doors. If you do decide to keep him in your life, please proceed with caution. And his mother is wrong, this isn't a cultural barrier. Her son is a walking red flag. Whatever Op, yes, but my parents don't really speak English, so maybe that's why. I find his remarks even more rude because of that. I don't think I will keep him, and you're absolutely right. It's sad that I only found out when we are already at this point, but I'm glad we haven't gone further. To whom _it_may_concern. Lamau. He wants a live-in maid/servant that he can have sex with. He wants an indentured servant, not a partner. He wants to have his cake and eat it too. He is showing his true colors here. He wants you to do 100% of the domestic labor and work because he cannot finance this traditional life he wants. He is a chump and likely a red-pilled misogynist. He wants a trad wife, but he isn't going to be a trad husband. He's an idiot. NTA. Frolic Detour, he sounds like a refugee from the Passport Brothers sub. Carbonatite, I hope he gets legitimately catfished and ends up losing a ton of money to some woman who he thought he could exploit and degrade. Update, first of all, I want to thank everyone who kindly replied and messaged me the past week. I truly am grateful for all the encouragement I received from everyone. It really warms my heart in the midst of all this mess. I want to admit that I, too, ignored a quite number of red flags he displayed in the past years, brushing it off as difference in our culture and upbringing. I thought I was being open-minded and accommodating, not knowing that I should have opened a deeper conversation regarding what I want if I were to deepen our relationship. Many people kindly gave me praises in my previous post, but I feel rather undeserving to receive them because I also did so many stupid things that got me here. Okay, now, to the real update. Last night I had a dinner with him alongside with my father after much thought and input I received from Redditors, friends and family. Long story short, he still didn't want to end our relationship. He apologized, saying he misspoke and wanted to fix his mistake. He said it was because he was too comfortable with me since I'm not a confrontational person and I did help quite a lot with his chores, bringing side dishes, help clean up his place every now and then, etc. So he thought I'll always be accommodating what he wants. I also apologize that I've never really brought this kind of topic seriously and not making sure we were on the same page whenever we did discuss this type of topic. He agreed that I should have told him before because that way it would never got to this point and then keep bringing up my bad communication. I know it's my fault too, but it didn't feel good at all hearing that from him. Even if he had admitted his faults and never spoke badly to me before except for that one time, I still can't shake off my distrust of him. I don't know why, but what happened last week is like an instant feeling repellent. So, I returned the ring he gave and told him I'll return more than half of the amount we used to buy our house. He initially refused the money, saying he wants to keep trying to win back my trust and me to keep in contact with him, but this morning he said I can transfer his money because marriage is not really happening now and tried to prevent me to sell the house nor tell our mutual friends that marriage is off the table. So, I just updated almost all of my group chats that now I'm single and here to tell everyone I'm single because my now ex-fiancé got a red flag so big, China would be crying with envy. I feel like an asshole to be honest because it seems like my feeling for him was that shallow all along, but maybe reality hasn't hit me yet, but that's that. Comments, to whom _it_may concern. Good for you. All these men who want traditional wives without being traditional husbands are ridiculous. They want you to do 100% of the domestic labor and childcare while also working while they only want to work outside the house. How lazy and entitled can you be? If anyone is a gold digger, it's him. Good riddance. Carbonatite, it's not traditional unless it comes from the traditional region in France. Otherwise, it's just sparking misogyny. You absolutely did the right thing. What does your dad think? My dad is a typical Japanese father, so we don't talk a lot since I've grown up, but he's supporting my decision to cancel the engagement. He doesn't say much, but he looks quite happy since he wasn't into it for quite a long while back. Thank you for the kind words. I hope you and everyone around you always be kind to you like you do to me now. It certainly makes me feel better. You need to go to intense therapy so it doesn't happen again. You apologize to a man for not being his maid. Thank you for the response. I didn't apologize for not wanting to be someone's maid, but for not being open and talking about what I want and expect in our relationship. I read in my previous post many pointed out the conversation with this topic should have happened long before, and I agree with that. That's why I apologize. However, I will also keep working on myself, so thank you for your suggestion. I will keep it in mind. The house, did you go 50-50? Why does he get more? We went 45-45 and my father added the 10%. My father was the one who offered to give him 50% of the shares as an extra layer of protection. Now, he cannot complain and has no reason to contact me or my family. To catch a sea bream with shrimp, he said. Thank you for the reassurance and I'll work hard to be better. Thank you for your response also. I really appreciate it. Commenter, if the two of you are joint owners and want to cash out of it, he is entitled to a share in the house's current value, not a share of what he initially paid. Oop, the house is under my name as it's difficult for foreigners to own property in a good condition here. Thank you for your concern. Someone called Oop and her family spineless, and I really appreciated her responses. If you don't mind, I don't have a problem with you insulting me, but do not attempt to do that my family. Not everything can be resolved by only being tough and formidable. I don't think it's stupid knowing when to be firm and how we compromise for our final decision to avoid future problems. But, I do think it's naive when one doesn't even consider that there are other ways to solve a problem other than butting heads and fighting. Stupid when they don't even try to understand the logic behind others' problem-solving method. Another response, that's your prerogative right to insult us. It's also within my prerogative right to ask you to stop. This kind of exchange is called conversation in Japan. I don't know about what it's called in your country. Is it another cultural difference? If someone's uncomfortable, they should have sucked it up or didn't go/talk in the first place? Excellent. My apology for being so ignorant. Giving him more money than he deserved guaranteed me an excuse for cutting contact completely, that I've compromised my decision. Social circle runs differently here because breaking up an engagement/divorce will always be a hot topic, and sometimes it affects you on an institutional level. Sometimes it'll affect your career even more when you're a woman. Yes, there are some cases where people getting fired because they got divorced, because it'll reflect badly on the company's image. Sometimes some company goes as far as giving paid leave and vacation to mend their employees' married life. I'm not breaking up, I'm canceling an engagement. It weighs differently. You're naive to think every society works like yours and your value is applicable to every part of the world without considering their societal circumstances. I'm not excusing it, but I'm not someone so important that I can change them overnight, nor do I want to sacrifice my family and my own reputation. I'm not delusional enough to think I'm the main character. If that's still spineless to you, then sure, I hope you do as well as him navigating your life here. Easter Bunny, the guy is looking for a traditional woman while working abroad in Japan? It sounds like he's bought into the stereotype of the demure submissive Asian woman to me. She was completely right that in order to live out his trad wife dreams of having all the housework done and his dinner ready when he walks in the door, etc., he needs to be making enough money so that she doesn't have to work. If both partners are working, then of course both partners will be doing housework and chores too. 41 flavors and thinsome. It's so obnoxious when boys like this ignore that there are two parts to the traditional marriage equation. I wanted to throw a slipper at his head when she very logically concluded if she was working more, he had to do more chores. Single sea captain. If she worked, asking him to do more chores was a bad wife. If she stayed home child-rearing and doing all chores, asking him to do all the work was gold digging. 41 flavors and thinsome. Like, dude, his kind doesn't want a traditional marriage, they want indentured servitude. Single sea captain. They want a bangmaid who doesn't ask them to be an equal partner in anything or have anything to do with their own children, which they want, but want nothing to do with. 100% they'd cheat and possibly leave after the spark leaves her from shouldering so much of the family burden, too. Honest opinion. He has a bullshit skewed view of Asian women. I'm Asian. For some reasons, a lot of Western men thought we are this submissive lot that will have a full-time job, be a full-time mom and still able to wait on you hand and foot. That's what he meant by traditional wife. He wants a live-in maid who also contributes to paying the bills. Fuck him. Incredible platypus. In the closet? No, I'm in the cabinet. I've recently come across the 4B movement in South Korea and other Asian feminism, and yeah, I don't think this whole submissive thing is gonna work out the way dudes like this think. Take a bunch of women who collectively are working through the fact that generations way too close for comfort used to be treated as little more than wombs, in general, and you get a lot of things, but definitely not submissive women. I am grossly oversimplifying here, but I think my point stands. Beisel, I just want to say that I greatly appreciate you commenting on the fact that this is multi-generational trauma that is only now beginning to surface because women are able to talk to other women now. Snartling. Yeah, I think the cumulative power of trauma is something people who aren't marginalized, and especially people like white cis dudes, don't get. We're carrying the trauma of our mothers. We realize when we run into certain kinds of bullshit that it's the same thing they went through. I was talking to my grandmother about a doctor ignoring my pain and she told me stories from the 60s of the same thing. It builds up into a very real weight that you can't help but be aware of. Now on to the next story. Story 2. Called off my wedding the night before my best man revealed she was pregnant with his baby after I spent 5 years with her and paid for our dream wedding. Because I wouldn't want our identity to be disclosed, I will be using fake names for this post. My name is Jason and I was in a relationship with my ex-girlfriend, Bella, for 5 years. Bella and I met each other at a unisex salon. To be precise, she worked at the unisex salon as a hairdresser, and the first day I met her was the first day she resumed work at that salon. She was friendly, and we got along well. I know I liked her from the onset, but I didn't think we'd become so close and fall in love. After visiting the hair salon several times, I asked for her number, and by this time, we were familiar with each other, so she couldn't say no. You know how the story goes, we went out together, got to know each other, and love happened. And when love happened, we ended up dating for 5 years. Personally, the main reason we didn't settle early was because I had been deeply hurt in the past by my ex-girlfriend, so I wanted to take things as slow as possible with Bella. And after 5 years, I decided it was time to tie the knot officially, and shortly after I asked her to marry me, we started the wedding preparations. 2 months before our wedding, Bella broke the news that she was pregnant, and although that wasn't part of our plans, I was happy, and I believed it was the universe's way of blessing us with an early wedding gift. Originally, Bella and I planned that we wouldn't have a child until 3 to 4 years after we were married, so by then, we would be all settled. In the past, she had an abortion twice, and I didn't want that for her again, so we decided we would keep the baby. Sincerely, it wasn't easy planning for a wedding and a child at once. It was even worse because Bella insisted we had the kind of wedding she had always dreamed of. She wanted us to use a venue, rent an expensive gown, and do a couple of other things that required a lot of money. It wasn't like I was the only one financing the wedding, she had been saving some money for it too, but I believed it was better to use most of our budget to lease a bigger apartment since we were expecting a child and also take care of other necessary things, but she refused. She claimed our marriage was a once-in-a-lifetime thing, and we had plenty more years to take care of our child and consider him before making any decision. So, after I thought about it, I saw her point, and we went ahead with the kind of wedding she wanted. We booked a venue and paid for the type of cake she wanted. After tasting a few, she paid for her gown, hairdo, and other things she had to take care of with her bridesmaids. Deep down, I was so excited I was getting married to the woman I loved, and I was even happier that she had not cheated on me once in our 5 years of dating. I believed she was a faithful partner, who would remain faithful until we grew old, but I was wrong. So wrong. I went far too deep into the future when my present was already a mess. I didn't know that while the wedding plans were going smoothly and I was pumping my savings into making her dream wedding a reality, Bella was cheating on me with someone close to me. And I would never have found out if her jealous lover had not come out clean. A night before our wedding, I went home early that evening to drop a few things, so I could join my friends for my bachelor's party, which was about to begin in 2 hours, and just as I reached the house, my best man called and asked if we could meet somewhere that he had something important to tell me. We agreed to meet at a coffee shop 2 blocks from the bar we were hanging out that night. On getting there, I noticed he looked unsettled, and soon as I sat down, he apologized in advance and told me he needed to get something off his chest. I was even a bit scared that he was about to cancel on me the night before my wedding, but what he told me was far worse than canceling on me. Straight to the face, my best man told me a little history of him and Bella and claimed he loved her so much and could not watch us get married. When he started saying everything, I thought he and my other friends were pranking me, and I kept looking around for someone recording us or any of my other friends, but immediately he showed me a sensual picture of him and my Bella together. My heart sank. He even showed me a text Bella had sent him before he called me, and it said something about him sneaking into her hotel room later at night, so he could make her feel good for our wedding. Seeing that message cleared all my doubts, and I tried to hold in the hurt as a man, but I couldn't keep in the tears. That wasn't all. He told me he was responsible for the baby Bella was carrying, but they planned together for her to tell me it was mine, so I wouldn't think anything was off and break up with her. He also disclosed other things that made sense, and at that moment, I felt my world stand still. There were thousands of thoughts going through my head, and it was difficult for me to accept that the woman I loved and had very high expectations in our relationship was carrying my best man's child while I was doing all the necessary preparations thinking the child was mine. I was so mad that if it were possible to see my head lit on fire, my best man would have seen the smoke. When I had heard enough, I got up in anger, flung the chair I was sitting on, and walked out. I was trying to control my anger, but when he followed me and held my arm, I punched him in the nose by reflex, then drove off. As soon as I got into my car, I called the wedding venue to cancel the venue and other things I had made part payment for. I even managed to get home in that state without passing a limit, and immediately I got home, I cried like I had never cried before. While I was crying over Bella's wicked betrayal, she called to ask if I had canceled the wedding venue because she got a call from them, and I told her I did. From my voice, it was obvious I had been crying, so when she asked if everything was fine, I didn't beat around the bush. I told her I knew everything, and our wedding was officially called off. It took her a couple of minutes to understand what I meant, and when she knew that I knew, she started crying and begging me over the phone. Throughout that night, she kept calling even when I told her I didn't want anything to do with her anymore. Also, I didn't sleep at home because I knew she would come over to try and beg me. To show how terrible she was, she even texted that we should get married and we would sort out everything after the wedding. She said this because she could not stand the shame of having her wedding called off the night before, especially after bragging to her friends. Our wedding was never held, and to date, I cannot forgive her for what she did to me. Everything I did for her in 5 years of my life went down the tube just like that. I wish cases like heartbreaks and infidelity had a place in court because I would have dragged her there. And I'd ensure she paid for all the years I wasted on her, the pain she caused me, and everything I invested in her. Since then, we haven't seen each other, and she didn't have the courage to face me after I called off the wedding. I moved into the house I rented for us as a surprise, and daily, I'm healing and moving forward. To my surprise, after everything turned out like that, my best man, who was my former close friend, tried to reach out to me to apologize for hurting me and breaking my trust, and he even tried to tell a story of how their affair started, but I wasn't interested in hearing his story. I told him we could no longer be friends and he had no place in my life. Since then, we haven't made contact, and I'll never speak to him again. Call it childish, but I don't care. Anyways, Bella did not keep his child, she aborted the baby as payback to him for ruining her life, and they are not together anymore. I have learned my lesson and will never love deeply again. Most times, I wished I had channeled all the resources, investments, and sacrifices I made for our relationship into my life. It would have been way better than wasting time on a promiscuous woman. But like they say, when there is life, there is hope.